Hey, what's up, guys? Infinite Dinner Dudes, and we're here.
I'm Raka.
And I'm E, and we got two guests with us, special guests, in alphabetical order, perhaps.
Grace, would you like to introduce first? We got Grace. Go ahead. Welcome to the show.
Hey. Hi. First of all, I have to just warn everyone that I am broadcasting, so to speak, from my stepkid's baseball game. And so if there's too much noise in the background, feel free to tell me to mute myself, and I will. That said, I am a deputy medical examiner on the West Coast. I've been doing this job for about 11 and a half years, and I'm all about the dead things, essentially.
Awesome.
We have similar things in common. I'm working in pathology for the past 23 years.
See? Yeah.
Yes, so we can discuss autopsies at length. Okay, and
yes.
now Kathleen.
Hi guys, thank you for having me. My name is Kathleen Orcat. I'm a forensic mental health counselor, an LMHC, and also obsessed with serial killers and some dead things too. And so I have a background working with forensic clients, parole, state parole, and federal as well. So I'm excited to join you guys.
Awesome.
Hey, guys. Welcome to our trio. It just is what it is. We're going to have a good time today, all right? My specialty? I like to drink, but
His day job.
My day job is I'm a lawyer. I represent law enforcement. I know their investigative techniques, tactics, things of that nature. And though I don't look lawyerly right now, I'm a type. It is what it is.
Arr.
All right, so today's discussion hits home for us,
Yes.
which is the Long
On the
Island
East
serial
Coast,
killer.
yes.
And it goes by many other names. The Kiddo Beach Killer, the Torso Ripper, whatever. There's many things.
LASK, so yeah. So many other names that we can go with it. So
This killer or killers has not been captured. Still at large. The crimes are unsolved. And this is rather recent. In most of our recent investigations for true crime, we've gone all the way back from the 60s, 70s, a few recent ones, but this is this past decade.
yeah, it says from 1996 to as recent as 2016. Responsible, he or she or they, responsible for at least 10 to 16 murders within that time. So, you know.
So it's been really well documented. I'm not going to go into too much of the minutia, but it has to start with Shannon Gilbert. In May of 2010, she went missing. She was an escort. She's on Craigslist. She met a client on Craigslist, Joseph Brewer,
Yeah.
and went to his place, had a driver go there. Within 3 hours, she made a frantic phone call to 911. And the quote, verbatim, that she said, "They are trying to kill me." The operative word being they. She went missing. The story is so muddled. There's so many things happening. There's a lot of factors. You guys want to jump in? Go right in. I can see you guys want to jump in there. Go. Kathleen, what do you
So I actually, in my deepest of dives into this case today, and you guys can I want to go back and forth about it, of course. I don't believe she has anything to do with the Lisk killer, the serial killer, and I have a lot of reasons why. I believe that she's been focused on heavily, but I think that she lends herself more to kind of like an affluent community out there that may or may not have like a lot of parties and, you know, invite escorts and just have good, like, you know, maybe good times. There may have been drugs involved. I know that she's key to them investigating and then leading to the bodies, but I don't believe that she is directly connected.
Really?
I've heard that. She's introduced because she's the gateway to this whole investigation.
She's very important.
But looking for her missing body. And Grace, this is marshland. This is beachfront. This is the whole Long Island Beach stretch called Ocean Parkway.
Yeah.
In Long Island in New York.
Gilgo Beach.
Gilgo Beach. So in the police search for her body, they uncovered 4 other women.
Yes.
All the same MO. All Craigslist escorts, about the same age, in the young 20s, brunette, petite, within 50 or 500 feet of each other, in burlap, naked in burlap bags, and strangled. So I know Grace might appreciate this. I do too. If forensic investigation revealed the hyoid bone to be fractured. So that's like a telltale sign somebody pressed hard enough. I've done a million of neck dissections and larynxes. This is the hardest bone for me to cut when I'm doing this dissection. It's a hard bone. So you have to apply a lot of pressure to break that. Once you break that, you know you're strangling someone.
Right.
So there's an MO, there's a profile that's been put together. They think it's a white male, familiar with the area. So maybe some occupation familiar with, beachfront, burlap, landscaping, something.
Yeah.
Or intimate knowledge of police activity, investigation, because this individual or individuals know how to circumvent a few things. We'll get into some of that later.
Yeah, white male from his 20s to his 40s, access to burlap sacks, and like Rocker said, ties to law enforcement or might be law enforcement.
When did that phone call? When was the phone call made?
She made that phone call 3 hours after arriving.
Right. What year?
This is 2010? No, 2009.
All right, and these murders started in the late 90s. This Gilgo Beach has already by then had a sort of a thing going. People knew about it. I've been to it. I've been to the bar on Gilgo Beach. I've been there.
Well, what happened?
Could this be a copycat? I mean, by then all the MOs, if you will, had already been exposed.
There's a couple.
And I guess that's part of my question. Is I'm curious if are they absolutely certain these are all the same person just because it's the same MO?
No,
Additionally, the hyoid bone being fractured it's generally considered to be a sign of strangulation, but people can be strangled and not have a broken hyoid, and also people can have a hyoid broken and it not be a strangulation. And so, I mean, that's the big thing, is just that there's, just because they say that this is typically what we see does not mean that it's even necessarily what we always see or even usually see. And also, I'm curious, what time of year did this first attributed, or this first person go missing? Because that kind of has some bearing.
So May, end of spring into summer, May of 2010. So right, because now you're talking about temperature, and you're talking about rate of decay, and then foliage and the grass and marshes, how high things grow, and what's there.
Animal activity. Animal activity is a big part, yeah.
Yeah, now here's the other thing. There's a big implication with the local law enforcement.
No, definitely.
Because
not once but twice.
Understandably, and I don't know how he feels, understandably, you don't want to jeopardize a case by releasing you're not obligated to release to public evidence.
Say it again for the people in back.
So you're not obligated to reveal evidence to compromise your investigation.
That's right. The cops don't owe you jack.
Right. So they don't tell anyone about particulars of the case. We don't know whether, you're right, DNA is conclusive. Is there a common DNA found associated with each individual?
Exactly.
It's kind of tough, I understand, with the decay and what kind of state you find the remains. So there's a lot of factors in there. But if there is or isn't, none of this is disclosed. The family has asked for a private autopsy, and they have their own findings. The family of this missing person, Shannon Gilbert, has also an attached tragedy. This is just a tangle.
We want to go with the people who were suspecting it, like police commissioner and everything.
We're into the police right now. Go ahead. Go right into the police debacle.
Okay.
Lack of a better word.
It's a great word.
Basically, James Burke, who was Suffolk County Police Commissioner back in the day, he was indicted for allegedly police brutality and other issues. Okay. Now, after that, it goes deeper because what ended up happening was someone broke into his car, and when they broke into his car, he beat the guy up. And when they found was that in his car it had a bunch of pornography. So for some reason, they attached him to this case.
Well, they accuse him of being associated with escorts and the like. So this is the police commissioner. Then they also accuse him.
I mean, he had,
Well, he did have, some stuff, but a lot of this is circumstantial. What you do in your own time.
Yeah, it's like all of those things don't really strike me as being, I guess you could say, a slam dunk. It's like, okay, I mean, if I found some guy breaking into my car, I'd probably beat him up. I mean, and that's not exactly indicative of somebody being a serial killer.
Right, and you got to figure that if he rose to the ranks of police commissioner, there are going to be things along the way that are problematic for him. None of which you would believe happen to be multiple murders.
No,
that would at some point become
the fact that
somewhat more clear.
It was even an option was just crazy.
He also got indicted for that issue, and he got convicted, and I think he served jail time in federal prison. So,
one is one thing, something else.
Well, if he's already in jail, what is to be gained by saving him? There's nothing to save.
Right.
And frankly, I don't think the Nassau PD cares about saving him at this point. Frankly, they would rather distance themselves from him and solve these murders.
Well, that's the thing. In the transition of power, when he left his position, he had instructed his officers to not tell anything about this case to the new administration. To not,
Right, that's a normal thing, right? Kathleen, what do you think about the kind of mental makeup of somebody who's capable of doing this? Does it fit the profile of somebody of Burke who rose the ranks to Nassau County Police Commissioner? That's a significant title.
Yeah, so that's a really great question, and that's exactly what I was thinking about while you guys were talking. So that does not actually fit the profile, the personality profile or traits that are associated with the profile that I created of the suspected Long Island serial killer. It's not someone who's going to be out there, who's going to be confident enough to go ahead and, get involved in an academy and rise to those ranks. And I think it was child pornography that was found, which is why he's in federal prison. So, but child pornography doesn't necessarily
small detail
doesn't necessarily link somebody to. I mean, I do believe that there's some shadiness going on, but I don't think it's for the reasons that are out there right now. I think it's something else, but I don't think that his personality type does not fit somebody who's going to be as calculated as they are. And we're talking about burlap sacks, so there's plenty I can go into. Also, the way that he's humiliated those victims, they're naked, and put in those burlap sacks. And also there's something very introverted about the individual. So I do not think that it matches up.
Burke does not strike me having one encounter with him and known him on the news. He does not strike me as an introvert. He is an outgoing criminal, but in any event, he's outgoing. But he is not an introvert. I would not describe him as that.
Wait, so
you know him?
Do I know him? Yeah, he's coming over for Thanksgiving.
I mean, I'd be mad.
As soon as he gets out.
I'd be mad about
I bet him.
Are you sending him money in prison?
You're not obligated to answer that.
I'm sending him some more commissary. What do you want?
While we're on the topic, Kathleen, go ahead. What is your profile so far? From everything you've read, how would you profile this individual? Or
Okay, so and I pulled this apart with one of my colleagues who also has a lot of great forensic experience. And the way that we view this individual is, first of all, the 4 remains that they found in December 2010, I think that's a Long Island serial killer. The other, remains that they found, and actually the map of where they found them, it doesn't make any sense. And actually, if you look at where the 4 victims were found, it looks like a graveyard site almost or a burial site for this Long Island serial killer or for a serial killer. And so those 4 victims fit a specific victim profile. One of them doesn't, by the way. And I think that I understand why, because then he went ahead and he offended twice in 1 year, which was in 2010. The 2 girls went missing. So I think that the other victims that they're trying to tie to him actually makes it actually brings too much noise to the case, and it makes things very confusing. So, because they don't fit they don't fit anything. Nobody was strangled. I think some of them were decapitated. So I don't believe that they're connected, and they have nothing to do with his burial site. So I'm just looking through my notes. I'm sorry.
So do you think that the latter murders may have been connected only in the sense that the location became somewhat, somewhat known, and if we got one person, let's be honest, it's probably a male, because they're 90% of them are criminals in terms of the criminal population. If you found the person who did 1 or 2 or 3. Okay, well, the 3rd or 4th might be the same person, 5th or 6th or 7th. You think that the people who, assuming for the moment that it was multiple people, is it possible that a copycat killer could have left them there and had the same MO just to throw up the trail? Because they were sick people to begin with. They wanted to kill somebody, but they left them there, did it the same way, so that, hey, if you found the first person, it wasn't me, it was him.
Yeah, so Suffolk County actually set up a website recently. I think it was May 2020. I forget what it's called, Gigolo News or something like that. And it's very minimal information, so which is fine. But there's also like a toddler that they're suspecting that he murdered, which is completely out of the victim profile. So, and if you look at the 4 victims that they found in December 2010, everything is very specific. Even the way that he had the bodies, where he placed them. So I believe that and maybe that's what the shadiness is with the Suffolk, former commissioner, as far as we connected everything, and just leave it that way. Because I imagine they don't want a bunch of murders in their county. I wouldn't.
We have a medical examiner on the call. Obviously, this is good stuff. Do you see a connection between any of the murders in terms of forensically, and connecting that to the MO in such a way that you think there is a possibility that the murders could be connected, in that they were done by the same person or group of people, along the route, meaning group of people started it and the same group of people finished it, or is it one person along the way?
And I can give you more details about the victims that were found in December 2010. Yep. I know the height and their weights and how they were placed. So if you need that, I will provide that to you, which is completely different from the other victims that they're trying to.
Oh.
So I'm kind of coming at this significantly less informed than everybody else. But what I'm hearing is that we had 4 victims that were found in 2010, and then 6 others found later in 2011 that are believed to have actually predated those 4 that were originally found. Yes. Is that correct?
Correct.
And there's also the belief that, I'm sorry, I'm just taking a quick look here, that her name, the woman who contacted the police, Shannon, that she was not related to those 4 at all.
Only in that they all were on Craigslist.
Escorts. Very similar build, very similar.
And her 911 call was what led them to investigate, and that's when her 911 call was, I think, in May 2010. They investigated, and then at some point, it was a police officer, I believe, and his dog walking in the area, stumbled upon remains, and that's when the investigation really happened, and they found 4 burlap bags with 4 remains in December 2010.
Okay, and what was Shannon's body ever found?
No, I don't think so. Was it? I think it washed. I was trying to search that. It washed up.
It washed up.
It did wash up.
Much later, her body was found a little off, not as metered or separated from the rest. And her belongings, she was found naked.
Yes, there you go.
But she was not in a burlap bag. Her belongings were found behind a doctor's house. And this doctor also has a sketchy background. This doctor contacted the mother of the victim. Now this gets a little convoluted where you're a doctor, you have no patient interaction with this individual. He claimed at some point to run a halfway house for troubled teens.
Oh, you're talking about,
Yeah, Dr. what's his name? Her belongings are found a few yards.
Dr. Peter Hackett.
A few hundred yards away from his backyard.
I think he was having escort parties.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
I have vague recollections. What was the? Do we know what the MO was with the 6 bodies that were found, or were they in the same area? Is that right?
Yeah, the same
Not
heat,
exactly the same.
burlap bag, all naked,
Well,
all
4,
I think the
prostitutes,
torsos were.
No.
all the
4 of them.
multiple. Was it?
No, it was 4. So 4 in December 2010. 4 bodies were found in burlap bags, all strangulation, all naked, all fitting a specific victim type, which I think one of the gentlemen said was brown hair, very thin, very short. Only one of those victims was blonde and a little heavier, but she was younger. So I think that she was kind of like a deviation from his victim profile. The other ones were, one's an Asian male, blunt force trauma to the head. One is a toddler.
Who was also a toddler of the mom. They found the mom and toddler.
Yeah, but they don't have the mom on the website being under investigation as one of his victims, which I think is interesting.
So
There's a lot to untangle.
Without having actual access to the autopsy reports themselves, it would be difficult to say how similar or how different they are. I will say that.
And there was some dismemberment, just so you know. So one, there was found in Manorville of 2 victims, and then they were later found. I think it was in 2012. They were found around that beach area. So that's 40 miles away. 40, right? I think about 40.
About 40. Same individual, but different body parts.
So I would be disinclined to say that the dismembered bodies have anything to do with the 4 burlap bag bodies, and that's because, and I mean this is a more a anecdote than anything. I've one of my coworkers has actually been on cases in which someone attempted to dismember a victim that he had killed, and the irony is, this killer, his roommate, walked in while he was dismembering his victim, and then he was like, well, shoot, now I have to kill him too. And the irony is the bodies were found. One of them was completely intact and the other was like partially dismembered. And all of this just to say that dismembering a human body takes considerably more effort than people realize.
Of course, yeah. It's
you and I know.
Yeah, I mean it's it's one thing to do a Y incision and pull out an organ block. It's another thing entirely to actually, dismember a human body at the joints. And so, it's like if somebody is willing to, field dress a human being like that, I would be curious as to why suddenly they stopped and switched to burlap bags and just discard. Yeah. It's such a profound deviation from one activity to the other that it's like that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. In terms of I guess you could say the victimology, that's like one's an Asian male, you've got these 4 females, you've got a toddler in there. I don't know what the rest of the victims were.
The toddler sounds like if you're going to stereotype it, then the toddler is with the parents, and they're there, and the person
I
is
think it's kind of
acting more. Well, if you're coming to an event because you're Craigslist and you're showing up and you bring a toddler, something's up. I mean, that could also that sounds bizarre to me.
Stranger things have happened.
But don't have stranger things have happened, but that just sounds bizarre to me.
But I mean, what gets me is that the different suspects who've been
implicated in this.
Make no sense. I
mean, one's a doctor.
Yeah, one's a doctor, and then he was strict.
One's a chief who is in jail now. So
another one.
Nobody's protecting him. There's no doubt. In fact, they have every reason to put it on him because then they can solve the murders and be done with it.
Then we have John Bitterross, John Bitterross, who was convicted in May 2017 of the murders of 2 prostitutes in 1993 and 94. He was linked to these murders because of DNA. Now, supposedly, his DNA is also linked to possibly the Liska murders or someone connected to a victim or victims or whatever.
Was it the 2 Manorville girls? Because there were remains found in Manorville. Yeah.
So Manorville is about
connected.
Yeah, it's good 30, 40 miles away. And probably longer by highway and all.
And again, there's dismemberment because your remains were found at one point in Manorville, and 40 miles away, they're found by the beach. So,
as I'm saying,
I don't think it's connected.
Is it really connected?
You know what? It could very well be this situation where there's a serial killer. There's other killers. This happens to be a very convenient disposal ground.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, it's like everybody knows that you dump a dead body in the desert in Nevada and it'll never be found. It's just like,
the problem
I'm
is
curious.
It's pretty populous. It's got I've been there. I've driven up there on a boat. There's a bar there.
You have to do it at night.
But isn't that somewhat affluent,
the bar is open
affluent area that...
It is an affluent area, but that's
the whole point.
There's a bar there.
Therefore, you could dump the bodies there, and no one even blink an eye,
except the people that frequent it. I mean, it's.
What I mean, people don't.
Well, actually, I have a question for my forensic people who investigate bodies when they passed on. So when I was looking at the cases, right? So I'm looking at the time of the that they went missing, which I have those months, and then when they found the bodies, right? So I was looking also into burlap material, and also I was thinking about storms and stuff and being in the marsh. So I think there was, and I have to look for it. They were victims that were so. It looked like he started in 2007 because that's when the first victim went missing. So I'm looking into the 4, okay? And then the next one goes missing in 2009. Okay, and then there's one that goes missing in July 2010 and another one who goes missing in September 2010. They don't find the bodies till December 2010. So would that be something would those bodies even be able to kind of withstand the elements? Because it's like sea salt, the marshes for that long?
No. And that's the thing is, that's part of the reason why I asked when Shannon was found, because, obviously, cold is going to slow down everything. And I guess part of what I'm asking is also were they found underwater? Were they just found in the foliage? I mean, do we have are they submerged completely? Are they, partially submerged? All of these things are going to affect how quickly a body decomposes.
Marshland.
Marshland.
But they were pretty.
So I would assume partially submerged because it's marshland. It depends on the tide.
Okay.
Yeah, but not much water. The marshland is towards the the beach erodes, and the marshland is towards the end of that. So most of this would be hidden, but not by water, but rather by just the marsh.
But it's not so like gritty and like you gotta dig.
No, this is a beach that's frequented by lots of people.
Yeah.
This is a pretty popular area. We're not talking about an off,
It's not the Everglades.
No, it's not. It's actually it's a nice looking beach, and people go there all the time. And boats. I was on one. We went to the bar there, and it was a nice area. And I saw people going in and out of the beach, and I didn't know where it was. It says, "Hey, this is where this is where all the murders occurred." I'm like, "Oh shit, you gotta be kidding me! This is a pretty active spot."
It's a few feet away from Lake Beach, like where you and I would go to the beach. Just a few feet, not that far. So that was my question, because I know burlap is biodegradable. So I know, I'm curious.
Yeah, and I mean, burlap, first of all, the burlap is going to fall apart pretty quickly. And, a body being outside, especially with salt water, with the temperature rising and falling and rising and falling, it's not going to last very long. At least the soft tissue won't last very long. I would say, and I mean, this leads a huge margin for error with this, not knowing a number of different factors, but it's reasonable to expect that a body left outside during spring or summer is going to be almost completely skeletonized within 1 to 2 months.
Yeah. No,
But that also,
that makes sense.
that also depends a lot on what their body type was, what their muscle mass to fat ratio was, how healthy they were. Also, is there any animal activity? What was the weather like? It's like, was it a dry month? Was it a wet month? Hot water, or warm water at least, is going to speed everything up, whereas cold water is going to slow everything down. And so, the ambient temperature is going to have a huge effect on how quickly a body is going to skeletonize. Once a body is skeletonized, it can last, obviously it can last years.
Centuries.
Yeah, just yes,
Crazy.
exactly.
The choice is burlap, so I get it for the biodegradable part. But if I'm not the killer. But if I were the killer and I stuff body parts in a burlap bag, I am putting this burlap bag into heavy-duty, thick plastic bag to transport to the burial site or
Why
dump
put it
site.
in the burlap bag?
Because
Well,
it
these
would bleed out in my truck. Or
well, and the victims that were in the burlap bag, they were not dismembered, were they? Those were the naked ones. They weren't dismembered in the burlap bag.
but
They were
still,
intact stringage.
blood bleeds out. I would take a bag still. Like, you would not transport this on your shoulder in a burlap bag. Blood would be on you, your clothes, your car.
But if they were strangled, there wouldn't be any.
Well, let's be honest.
True.
You're leaving a body in marsh area of a beach that's pretty popular. You're not looking to hide.
You're pulling off on the highway.
Rocky, you're not hiding the murders if you're dropping the bodies in.
I'm just saying, you would have to do it at night. You would have to pull over. You're hoping nobody flags you, a cop or somebody, that why you pull over on.
Most people in Nassau or Suffolk that they have access to or already have boats themselves. They would just rather ride it out, rent one, ride it out, and drop it in this. You're looking to be caught.
That's true. I mean,
Yeah.
once you just
But-
have a boat,
But
just
pretty.
take the
Different
drop
profile a little bit with the burlap. That's why I think that was his burial grounds. And I think when they found them in December 2010, that messed everything up because of the placement of the bodies. And I think that he knew very, very well where exactly he placed them, because the 4 victims at different times were all placed in the same spot. But it's like weird, and I saw it on a map on how he placed it. But I think the burlap has to do with something that's either sentimental to him, because burlap's a weird fabric. Burlap is not easy to like move around, and also it falls apart. So I feel like it either has to have a sentimental value to him, because I know like kids play in sacks in them.
It was
You know
funny
what I'm
to
saying?
think that.
So I don't know if something happens when he was younger, because there's a lot of humiliation going on, or if he just has access to burlap bags.
There's a
Well, and also
burlap-
using burlap also suggests, and also not actually burying them in any intentional manner, also suggests that he might have wanted to have sustained access to them.
That's right. That's humiliation. That's why it's a burial ground for him. That's why I feel that way, because I feel that's why I go back to he's somebody who's probably has a lot of hostility towards women, probably was humiliated throughout his life. It's probably some mommy issues that he's trying to like regain power and control, but and kind of putting them on display so he can go back. Because usually serial killers, they like to have some sort of connection to it. So that's why I feel like it's a sentimental value.
I think he wants to be known, whether obvious or just spoken about, in that he has access to the bodies. He puts them in an area that he can access often and frequently. He puts it in an area where the public will see. And if if either he gets caught and he doesn't mind that, or he doesn't and he enjoys the attention that comes with the mystery of who did this at this beach.
Right.
I think he would have put them more closer to the road. Like he would have made them more seen. You could be right. I don't know.
It's a pretty popular beach.
Or this is just a private thing for him.
You might as well just done this at Rockaway.
I mean, the last thing on burlap.
This is pretty popular.
There's,
too populated.
The largest distributor of burlap in the region is a guy who ran a nursery, and James Bissett. And oddly enough, he killed himself.
Yeah. The day like 2 days after Shannon Gilbert's body was found, he killed himself in a parking lot. Now, why would he do that?
I mean,
It could be
a
mere coincidence,
or
but I mean,
Well, what
That's
else?
pretty stuff.
What
well,
else?
this is so strange. This whole as we dig deeper, you got a sheriff who's all a mess. You got the burlap king of that region committing suicide. You got another serial killer in Manorville, which is tied to one of the victims, because a phone call was placed from Manorville to one of the victim's sister, mocking her sister, and stating that your sister's dead, whatever. The person who placed this phone call emanated from Madison Square Garden and from Manorville.
what?
And the phone call lasted less than 3 minutes. The person knew.
90 seconds, yeah.
Yeah, 90 seconds. Knew exactly how much time before it gets traced. Or they traced as much as they could.
Which
This
needs
goes back to the humiliation, I think, and also the mommy issues, because I feel like he seems like a person who is very insecure and is trying to regain control somewhere, and that's why he's chosen like very vulnerable victims. So he's not going to be like a Ted Bundy who's going to be okay with choosing random victims because he feels confident that he can. This is somebody who is comfortable only with transactional relationships where he can pay for it, get them in his car, awkward, socially probably weird, but they're staying with him because they're getting paid for it, right? So I think that even like the humiliation with the sister, making her feel like, horrible, and also she's a minor. So I feel like, and actually if you look at the 4 victims, they all look very young. They're all in their, I think, mid to late 20s, except for the one that doesn't fit the profile exactly. She's 22, I think, with blonde hair. So, but she looks very young. So I think that there's something going on there as far as like vulnerable victims.
I find it fascinating. You keep repeating the 4 victims. So you're thinking that it's more than one killer. It's not just one guy.
I think they're trying to like
the
to attach it all, because there's a lot of shadiness going on over there, as we can all see. So I think that it's like maybe easier to just be like, all right, they're all linked somehow, but they don't make sense. They don't make sense.
Or it's one guy or one person or persons, and then the other one's someone else.
Well, that's my point. My point is this place was famous to some extent. If you go down one road because of the majority of the others of the entire group, you're sending them down a bad route, and the person who killed 1 or 2 or 3 others,
Well, it's interesting if it's 4. If 4 is a number, or he stopped because there was attention to the area, because there's another set of killings in Atlantic City in the late 90s.
Yes.
4 escorts they called it the East Coast serial killer because he arranged all the bodies, all the bodies facing the East Coast.
I heard they tried to
four
look into that.
similar build, similar age, 4. So, is there?
Were they killed the same way?
Were they killed the same way?
I'm not sure. I think they were all strangled as well, but I gotta go back to that to make sure if that was it. But
I mean, isn't that either it's going to be a stabbing, a shooting, or a strangulation? Isn't male against prostitute does not tend to be strangulation, because the reality is, the people who are going to frequent them and kill them will have that personality where they need to dominate somebody, and shooting is not the way.
That will turn to you guys. You guys answer that one. I wouldn't know. Let's turn it over.
For a fact, the Butcher Baker did not do that at all.
Well, there's actually another Long Island serial killer who targeted prostitutes. Joel Rifkin.
He did what?
Angry.
Joel Rifkin. He, I don't know how many victims he had, but he was also on Long Island. I forget what year, but
which they actually thought he was.
I know. And what did he say? He said that this person probably has a lot of traits like I do, which is that I grew up very lonely. I grew up in the suburbs. I was mocked. I was bullied, and I was very angry.
Yeah, and actually, the New York Newsday, the newspaper for it's mainly Long Island. They actually posted there. No, Newsday. They actually mentioned. They said, "Oh, it's Rifkin is the list is listed," and he actually wrote them back and spoke to them. And in the interview, like, yeah, I'm effed up, but I'm not. I didn't kill those girls. You know what I mean? People, but not those girls.
Yeah, he said it was too messy.
So it's. I mean, why would you cop? If you did it, you did it. I mean, I don't think he did those. So I mean.
So it remains.
I mean, I would also say that you're applying logical thinking to someone who is not necessarily logical. So
you're right.
Yeah.
I'd be curious. Going back to the burlap king. Does anyone know what else was going on in his life when this happened? Because I mean, theoretically, in the jurisdiction where I worked, we've done a lot of studying of suicide and suicide prevention. Okay. And so there are all kinds of reasons why people will do that. And so but before I would consider that as being a possibility, I'd want to kind of know what else was happening with him.
I mean,
that said, I will say that frequently what I've seen is when someone is about to go down for something really bad, in my experience, this has typically been things like child pornography or molestation, things like that. That is a way up there motivation for people to kill themselves. I've seen it several times. So
he definitely was a high-profile individual in the community, in the business community. I think his wife too was very prominent.
I just think it was a coincidence, honestly. I mean, it's just, but why? I mean, if not,
very coincidental.
But
yeah, I mean, I'd be curious what else he had going on, because I mean, the factors that cause that are extensive.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
That was what? You would have heard more stuff by then. I mean,
that was a while back. So again, this case remains unsolved. How do you guys feel? Did he stop? Is he caught? Is he out? Is he just relocating?
Or is it somebody else? Or the two?
He might be dead.
He might be dead. Correct.
COVID may have taken him out.
You know
Thanos.
Personality traits I brought up before, as far as like being somebody who's a loner, introverted. I believe he's a single male, no history of significant relationships or intimacy, some intimacy deficits. I think he probably lives with a parent, maybe his mother, and relies heavily on her.
I live next to somebody who's like that.
And I believe that he actually makes most of his connections on the computer, like as far as like online. So COVID was probably actually a really good time for him to stay inside and to like feel safe being able to connect with people online. because I believe he's an uncomfortable, awkward individual, which is why he picked the victims he picked. So I think that he is in a cool down period, which serial killers tend to do. I hope he doesn't victimize again, but maybe hopefully COVID will get him. But I do believe that he's just kind of like in a cool down period.
Do you have any speculation as to like how long his cool down periods typically are? I mean, I have not studied serial killers as much as I've just, studied death in general. And so I'm curious, do they tend to have like the same, is it like on a cycle, like every year or every 4 months, and then, accelerate slowly? Or is it possible for it to go, 1 or 2 months and then stretch into, a year, or then, kick back to 6 months? Is it variable like that?
Well, with him, looking at him only. So with the four victims, I know I'm focusing on that, but that's because they're they're all the same. The patterns are exactly the same. Is that it looks like there was, I think, a year and a half. I'm just looking through my notes. Because there was one that was 2000. So it was like 2007. So it looks like, he started in 2007. Disposed of the first victim if he did that, right? The next victim, and then so that gratification period lasted until about 2009.
Oh, interesting.
He has another victim. Somebody else goes missing. I'm only going with the 4 victims. And the 2009 victim is the one who he called the sister. So that gratification period would have lasted longer, the humiliation calling the victim sister. And then nothing happens until July 2010. That's the next victim who goes missing. And then September 2010. The July 2010 one, that one was the person who did not fit his victim profile. So that's why I feel like there was a smaller
margin there.
Yes, exactly. So because she was heavier, I think she was 140 pounds. She was 5'5". The other victims were 5 foot and about 100 pounds, 98 pounds.
So maybe he was experimenting.
The gratification wasn't met, so that need wasn't met. That's what I think.
So I wonder if, like with that person, he was experimenting to see if it's, might have scratched the itch, so to speak.
Could there be a trigger?
And then realized it didn't. Yeah.
There could be a trigger.
The trigger goes back to the burlap bags. Because if we look at when the people went missing, and I think only one went missing in September 2nd, which is still technically the summer. So burlap bags, when I started looking them up, because I was like, why would you use burlap? I started getting like images of kids jumping in burlap bags. Yeah. Like that game, the relay race. Which I grew up in the city. I have no idea what that is. So I'm like, people in burlap bags. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. And I was talking to my colleague, and she was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Maybe he was just really humiliated somewhere at some point, maybe in summer camp, and that's why the summer is a trigger for him.
So we're summer camp.
It always goes back to summer camp.
Are you talking from experience? Don't answer that. No, yes,
I hated it.
So then
they could
didn't go.
So that's what we're thinking, right? That's
Here's a question I've always been itching to ask. A lot of these serial killers, do they act alone?
Most.
A lot of disposal is so hard to look at the accused individual and be like, you did this? All you?
No, because it's very personal to them. It's very personal. They don't want to share that with anybody else. It's very personal. So if you look at like the high profile ones, Ted Bundy being maybe my favorite, like it's very personal to him. He's not gonna like have some. He doesn't want to share that with anyone. What's the other one?
West Coast.
With the male victim.
What, Gary Ridgway or?
Exactly.
Jeffrey Dahmer, another interesting one. Very personal to him. He wasn't going to share that with anyone.
That's the power. I have it all.
He picks certain guys.
The scorecard killers. Yeah. The scorecard killer in West Coast in L.A. Hillside. He was not a very built guy, yet the bodies were found off-road. I mean, deep in the desert, with no tire tracks or hand trucks. Like, how are you taking these lots? You're talking about 60 plus.
Well, as somebody that had to drag a body out of a house yesterday, I'm going to go ahead and say that if you get your center of gravity low enough, it's not hard.
Okay.
Touche. No, I agree.
Hold on. All you guys out there, just
low center of gravity, and
That is a quote of the freaking day.
It's all leverage.
If you need to drag a body, lower your body.
you know what?
I
Using
didn't-
me,
I didn't have to drag a body, but the largest autopsy I did was an individual in excess of 300 pounds. No one was helping me. I had to put this body from the gurney to the table, and I used leverage. I did it myself. Oh, soap
She won.
works.
Yeah, she won.
Soap
She
up the
dragged
table.
the body. You didn't. Forget.
Soap up the table and go.
You're done.
Wait, so you answered your own question.
But it's just amazing. I mean, I find it.
Well, I mean, so to be realistic, you look at it and, okay, most of his victims, and speaking of the 4, were women, so they don't have, theoretically, they have less muscle mass. And they're short and 100 pounds maybe. That's not difficult to manage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially in the bag. So
the way I'm seeing it, more and more it sounds like it's 2 different people. It's like
It's a
one
doping
person did the 4, and then the rest was someone else.
I mean, the rest of them could just be a couple of, there might be even more. There might be like a few one-offs. Like the toddler is very strange.
Right.
I mean,
the
it's
father and the mom. That might be a key case. And I think that like when they're grouping them all together, and I'm not into detective work, I have no idea, but when they do that, it makes it too murky and then it gets very confusing. So now we're kind of like looking at too many variables and it gets very confusing. So I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not going to solve it today. I promise you that.
No. But we want to just bring it.
I was hoping.
I was hoping for the Gigolo bar.
Gigolo bar?
The Gigolo bar.
He has his own agenda. He's going to.
I've been there before. It's a great bar.
The Gigolo bar? Okay,
The Gigolo bar. Whatever it's called.
All I'm saying, it is likely somebody who is very like on the internet, maybe a gamer, I'm not sure, maybe looking into, maybe like very into pornography, maybe child pornography, I'm not sure. And I believe that they are someone who lives with their mom. And again, it's not in a caregiver role. It's somebody who is dependent on their mom, trying to like be independent, but they can't. And I think that, unfortunately, I believe they're still alive.
So what?
It's easy for him to stay in.
Why do you think that? And I know it's mentioned before, but he stopped.
I think he had to because they found the bodies in 2010.
Yeah, that's a lot of attention.
Yeah, I don't think he wanted that attention. Actually, I think he wanted to keep
Don't
going.
you think someone who wants to do that will just continue and just because
We'll
in
find
a
another
sick,
beach.
twisted way they want to get caught in a way,
You're leaving them at a beach.
I agree.
You're leaving them at a beach. I think you want to get caught. You want notoriety.
Exactly.
You don't want to get caught necessarily. You want notoriety.
Not all of them. Not all of them. Also, look at Joel Rifkin, the one that I'm talking about before. He got caught. He got caught because of I think he was speeding or something. Like something ridiculous. He got caught. And there was I think a body in his trunk. He did not want to get caught. He wanted to continue because the thing is, it's moving a need for him.
Market tickets, so yeah.
Right, and he was speeding or it was something silly. And a lot of these, when I worked with guys who would view child pornography, they would, the way that they would get caught, it would be for many years, like a long time that they would be watching child pornography or offending, and they wouldn't get caught. They would get caught for something stupid, like clicking on something they shouldn't have clicked on. When they're tech guys, they know what they're doing.
Samuel Little, the most prolific serial killer. If he didn't get caught and they got him the way they got him, I think he would have done it until they died.
How did they get him?
They picked him up on a rape charge, and then the Texas Ranger had said he had a feeling, some kind of premonition. They said, you know what, I don't think he's a rapist, I think he's a killer. And he appealed to his ego and told him exactly those words. And that's when Sam Little kind of snapped out of his little rehearsed
And he just
speech,
kind of
and he's like, oh, really?
spilled his guts.
Well, he made sure he ensured that he would never get the death
Well,
penalty.
of course.
And they played the game, and he played them. And in trade-off, he never got the death penalty, but you're talking about 93 plus. Right?
I don't think they all want to get caught. Some of them, yeah, like Ted Bundy loved the I don't know how to say the word. He loved that excitement.
Notoriety.
Thank you so much. Yeah, not my strong suit.
So the fact that some guy who killed 4 people and got notoriety, all of a sudden it just stops. It just doesn't fit.
No,
Might
actually,
have a burial ground. We don't know.
He might have gone somewhere else.
I
You know what?
think most likely.
You know what? That's a good point.
So beware the marshlands and beachfronts everywhere.
Florida, California, Texas.
And
etc.
more important, a public safety announcement for everybody out there. Stay off Craigslist.
Yes.
They still have Craigslist?
I believe so.
They do, but
Well, now it's not Craigslist. Now it's a bunch of different like apps, like giveaway or offer up or let go and et cetera, et cetera.
there you go.
Stay off those two.
And how is it that we lift a dead body that you said was easy? Just in case.
Center of gravity, go low.
Center of gravity, go low. Yep.
There you
Got
go.
it, thank you.
Hold
Not
up.
that I don't need to prove anything right now, but
Also, I mean, yeah, there are a lot of different tricks for moving bodies. Rebecca can tell you all about that.
That's a whole other conversation.
Catch us next time as Grace.
That's a whole. That really is a whole other conversation. We gotta talk about that because that's.
Well, okay, so, but I
want the
actually,
top 5 ways to move a body without.
well, okay,
Top 5.
That's what we get.
No, Grace, go for it. Top 5, go.
Top 5 ways to move a body.
the top 5 ways to move a body. Okay, first of all, it depends on what the body is laying on. Because if they are on like a linoleum floor or something like that, you either want to get a towel and put that underneath them to drag them, or a large piece of plastic. If the body is somewhat off the ground, like if it's on a table, like with doing autopsies or at a funeral home or something like that, your best bet is actually to move the feet first. If you're higher, but if you're lower, you want to move the torso first. You want another good way to move a body is to get a large, stiff, like we talk about using spinal boards or backboards from an ambulance. Those are very, very useful. Also, one of the ways that I do is when I have a heavy body is if they're wearing jeans are the best because you can grab them at the waist line of the jeans, or you can grab them by their belt loops. And once you've got that, that's like right around the center mass for that body. And so if you can get, it's like having it's like having a belt around there. One little factoid. I know that I've invited you guys onto the clubhouse room that we do, but you all have Androids, so that's not really a possibility. But it's a bunch of deaf professionals, and we actually had an extensive conversation about the best way to dispose of a dead body. And our official
deaf professionals. There is
and our official stance is that the best way to dispose of a dead body is to feed it to pigs.
I heard about that.
I put a meme up there. Yes, it's awesome.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Because they eat everything.
They eat it all. They'll eat it all. Yeah, it's in fact, and then it gets digested, so it's even better than a wood chipper, because even the fragments, it all gets digested.
Yep, this is something I've heard before.
Is it better than other
I have no
chemicals
experience
that
with that, but I've heard.
biodegrade? Like different.
Sorry, what was that?
Is it better than different acids that can biodegrade tissue and bone?
I would say yes. Yeah.
So theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, and we're also talking about like somebody that doesn't have access to a funeral home retort, or somebody that doesn't necessarily have access to a lot of these industrial chemicals.
Awesome. I'm working on an iPhone, so I can join.
So if you eat the pig that ate you, is that baby?
Well, include me. I want to take all the notes I can about that.
Really quick, you guys. First of all, my husband's phone is dying, so I'm gonna have to get off of here. And also, my stepkid is up to bat.
Yes.
So.
Good luck to Grace. Thank you so much again. Grace from Dead Men's Donuts. You will catch her, and she has a podcast for survivors, and she also has the clubhouse, which she discussed Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to
Good luck
talk.
with the games. Good luck with everything
I'm
else. Be in contact.
so glad I finally got to talk to you guys.
Absolutely. We're very grateful.
So cool.
Enjoy the game. Thank you for the
Bye, guys.
All right, so we close this out. Kat, thanks for
Bye,
everything.
guys.
Appreciate
No,
it.
thank you guys. And just like a one closing note, and because I'm a crazy mental health professional, us, like pulling apart this case, no, disrespect to the victims. Of course, we want the person to get caught. I know we kind of got threw a little humor in there because we needed to, but of course, we were just kind of like trying to pull it apart as victims. Oh my gosh, as professionals, and just try to take it easy with it. So, but no disrespect to them.
No, absolutely.
No,
And
of course.
we many times we try not to even mention victims' names because of respect to the family and the privacy.
So bottom line, in
We
your,
kind of didn't though. We didn't. Not that much.
No, I know this. Sometimes we have to because it's very pertinent with the.
so bottom line, in your professional opinion or your opinion in general, do you think that it was? We keep repeating it. I mean, I repeated it several times. It was the same guy who did everything, or the same person, or multiple people, or it was something else entirely.
The four are linked to one person.
Yeah.
Again, same victim profile, burial site, and the victim profile is very important. Same exact way that the murder happened, strangulation, same way that the victims were placed. And it's also, again, their victim profile is exactly the same, except for one, but again, I understand where the deviation came from. Even the phone call with the humiliating the younger sister who was a juvenile, a minor, which I'm sure he heard that through the phone. And actually, if you look at the four victims, they all look very young. You could tell they're all of small builds. So they're completely different from the other cases that they're trying to link. So I think that those are all outside, probably maybe the toddler and the other one.
Before and then someone else.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and he's not gonna have body parts in Manorville and then all of a sudden drop the rest of them somewhere around the beach. That's not gonna happen. It was very much a burial site that they found in 2010 in December.
I agree. I mean,
It makes perfect sense.
For anyone who knows the New York, Brooklyn area, when they started clearing out for the new state park that's in Jacob Reese in that area, they found so many bodies. So many remains. I mean, you're talking about, the mob, the mafia, who knows?
Yeah.
Easy dumping ground. And very similar in this case. This happens to have an established pattern. Many others, it just happen to be. Now, if anything happens, and I know we've mentioned Shannon Gilbert, she was an opening door to find whatever else was there. So, Kathleen, again, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you guys. This was so awesome. Let's do this again. I have the best time ever.
We cannot wait to have you on again. We'll deep dive into more serial killers, unsolved mysteries.
Favorite. And my serial killer outfit on today, so I'm not a serial killer, but serial killer research. Maybe.
So you want to promote anything or whatever?
I don't know. I'm just excited. I think this was so awesome. So I'm down for whatever, you guys. I think this is really cool. I love meeting your friend. She was excellent. This is so awesome. So I want to do this again for sure.
Absolutely. Dead or Dudes Nation thanks you and everybody else there listening, tuning in, downloading, everything. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Or we'll be investigating you if you don't like and subscribe.
Exactly. Like and subscribe. I'm Izzy.
Raka.
And I'm E.
And your Cat. And thank you very much.
Have a good night, all. And remember, save the whales.
Take care, guys.
Bye.